Hey y'all, thanks for tuning into another video. So let's talk about the safety of trying to change your narrative, or the safety of trying to change the people who hurt you. Because oftentimes when we're in a space of pain, we really want to try to convince people of the pain that they've put us in, because we think that if they just know our side of the story, then in fact, they will change who they are, maybe even apologize or shift the way they're moving in our lives. But something that I read over the course of the week is that trying to convince people of how much they hurt you will always feel safer than accepting who they are. So there's safety in trying to change the narrative, and there's safety in trying to change the people, because the reality is we're wrestling with our lovability when we're thinking about the ways that people have treated us. And there's safety in saying, well, I didn't feel lovable for the last 30 years of my life because of the way that my siblings and my parents treated me. But if I can get them to see how they affected me, then perhaps they'll change or apologize, and that'll negate the unlovability that I felt for the past 30 years. Because we're wrestling with our lovability, we tell ourselves that there's safety in changing the people. Because if they see and understand now and they start to act differently now, then perhaps it was never because I was unlovable. It was just because they weren't ready to show me love. And the reality of the situation is there is no safety in trying to change other people, because what ends up happening is the wound that you already have is exacerbated by continuing to try to get people to change who will never see the hurt that they've inflicted upon you and will never see the purpose of them trying to be somebody different until they have gotten to that place for themselves. Because I can tell you that in the relationships that I was in, even going through a terrible, messy court battle for custody and all of these things, I tried to do the civil thing. I tried to have the conversations. I tried to text to make things better. I tried to say, let's put our child at as a priority in this situation. What would be the least effective to him in a negative way? I tried all of that. And what I can tell you is it felt safer in the moment to say, if we could have these conversations, if we could talk about this, if we could just get ourselves out of this equation and do what's best for our kid, then perhaps this will feel better. Inside of that, I was hoping that the person would have a change of heart. I was hoping that his change of heart would change the trajectory of our situation. But a narcissistic person will always have closed ears, and they'll always have pointing fingers. They won't listen and they'll blame. And that's just the reality of the situation. And so that's what continued to happen inside of that space. He continued to prioritize hurting me over trying to do what was the best for our child. And that continues to happen to this day. I just have learned a better way to react to it and have learned how to help my child through it and how to compensate for the things that he's experiencing. And there were still parts of me that was hoping that that would change it, that the narrative would change, that even if we told our story 5 years from now, we could say together we didn't work well, but as co-parents, we can do what's in the best interest of our kids. And perhaps that would change the narrative just a little bit, just enough for me to feel like I didn't ruin my kid's entire life. But the reality of the situation is that's not what happened. And trying to convince him how much he hurt me just ended up hurting me exponentially more, because now I saw that not only was he not going to change to stop hurting me, but he wasn't going to change to stop hurting his kid either. So it just made the wound that much deeper. And so I think for us that it's safer to believe that the people who hurt us are just uninformed, because if they knew about the hurt that they caused us, they certainly would not have hurt us in the first place. We believe that that would change their perspective. But the reality is you have to just sometimes resonate and believe and just internalize that people are that cruel. Like, you want to believe the best case scenario, which is that they're going to think differently about the situation once you inform them. But the true hard facts are that some people are truly that cruel. Some people are truly that self-serving. And no matter how many times you tell them what they did to you and how it hurt you, they're still going to react the same exact way because somehow it'll be your fault and they do not empathize with your experience. Just believe that some people are that cruel, and that exists in the world. And that's not going to change the story, the narrative of your situation. And the second thing I think that we do is we think that they're not sure of the severity of the pain they cause. And if they actually realize the intensity of the pain, then they would apologize, change, etc., because they love us so much. And I think that false narrative that we tell ourselves is the most hurtful one, because the alternative is to accept that the way that they show love is not loving to us. And I think the secondary part of that is back to what I was saying earlier, which is we have to stop interpreting our lovability through the lens of how people could love us. Because sometimes people just aren't good at loving people, but it doesn't change your ability to be loved. It doesn't change the fact that you are lovable. It just affects the fact that they're not capable of loving you. And so I think when we tell them the severity and we tell them how much they hurt us and we tell them, the intensity of our feelings, our expectation is that perhaps we can change the story by them saying, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much I hurt you and I'm so sorry. Like, I was just trying to love you. But what ends up happening is they start to defend themselves, and somehow you're the crazy one, especially if you're the scapegoat in the family and you're trying to break generational curses because you're flipping the entire thing on its head. But what I want you to hold on to, and what I've learned to hold on to myself, is no matter how many times you tell them what they've done to you, people who have hurt you will probably take the same road that they've always taken, which is to defend themselves, not honor what you've said, and to hurt you more. And you have to detach your lovability from the way that people are treating you. Because when you believe that you're lovable beyond what the external validation might say, then what you'll start to understand is if someone treats you in a poor way, you'll understand that as poor treatment instead of interpreting as meaning something about you. And so today, I hope that this message is helpful to those of you who are struggling with trying to change the narrative because it helps you to feel safe. And I hope you understand that the people who hurt you because of something that's wrong inside of them and not something that's wrong with you. If this message resonated with you, please go to all my socials, like and follow those pages, subscribe to this channel, leave a rating. I would love to hear from you. And also remember that you can reach out to me through my DMs. I have some coaching sessions that I would love to share with you. I'll put those in the description below as well. If this message helped you, please don't keep it to yourself, because we know that knowledge gained and kept to ourselves is selfish. But if we can share something that was a catalyst for breaking free from bondage for ourselves, and it certainly could potentially be the thing that breaks other people that we know from the bondage that they're experiencing. And that's what all these videos are about, helping people to live freely in a life that is in alignment with them and full of peace, as opposed to living in the bondage of the things that they've experienced and the conditioning that they've received. Thank you again for tuning in, and I'll see you again next time.